Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the House Healthcare Committee. We are continuing our testimony on suicide prevention, and we have with us Desiree Hawkins from St. Johnsbury, Vermont. So, Desiree, thank you for coming to share your story. And we will be listening, and we're going to let you tell your story and take as much time as you need. And then there may be a few questions at the end if you're open to questions. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Great. So if you can just introduce yourself for the official record, and then please share your story.
Hi, my name is Desiree Hawkins, and I live in St. Johnsbury, Vermont.
So, Desiree, I apologize. I was so intent on you. You should probably know who you're talking to. So we're going to do a quick round introduction here so you know our names, and then we'll turn it back over to you. So, Art, do you want to start?
Yes, my name's Art Peterson. I live in Clarendon. I represent Clarendon, Wallingford, West Rutland, and Rutland Town.
Hi, Leslie Goldman. I'm from the southern part of the state around Bellows Falls.
Hi, Desiree. My name is Daisy Barbecco, and I represent Winooski.
Hi, I'm Mari Cordes. I represent Lincoln, Bristol, Moncton, and Starksboro.
Hi, Desiree. I'm Topper McFawn, and I represent Barrytown and Williamstown.
And Desiree, I'm Lori Houghton, and I represent the city of Essex Junction.
Hi, Desiree. I'm Melissa Black, and I represent Essex.
Brian Chena from Burlington.
Alan DeMar representing Enosburg and Montgomery.
Hi, Desiree. I'm your neighbor in Barnet, and I represent Waterford and Reigate as well. Bobby Farley's Rubio.
Great. All right, Desiree.
So I am a mom of 4 children biologically. I have 2 stepchildren and 2 step-grandchildren. I am Noah's mom, and Noah is the youngest of the 6 kids. And he is forever 12. Noah was a fun-loving and caring boy. He always loved to help everybody. He was very, very smart, very creative. There was nothing I don't think he could do. He loved to watch DIY videos on how to create little things, like slingshots out of bottle tops and balloons. He just didn't like school. From the very first time he entered into school at pre-K level, he had been hurt by a staff member. I put him in daycare where he blossomed really, really amazingly. He entered back into the regular school where he started to endure bullying from other children. Noah had diagnosis of ADHD and ODD and a couple others. So he was very smart, but he was just overall a very amazing child. Through his school years, he struggled. He attended 3 different schools where he endured bullying at all 3 of them. It got to the point in St. J where he struggled so much that he was with 2 one-on-one workers in a secluded room, and he just couldn't function there. He got switched over to Cornerstone, which is a alternative school ran by NFI here in St. J, and he struggled there as well. He struggled there with a lot of different things because it's an alternative school for children who struggle with behaviors and developmental needs, and it's just it's for children who can't really handle regular school. And he endured a lot of bullying. He always was complaining that all he wanted was friends. He just wanted to be loved. He wanted friends. He didn't feel like he had friends. He was bullied. Some of the things he was bullied for was his teeth, being very small, which he was for 12. He was very, very small. At his death, he was 74 pounds. So he was little. That he weren't, able to wear name brand clothes, which nowadays we have 2 other teens in our home, and me and my partner just can't afford to go buy name brand stuff. It just physically, financially cannot happen. He, at one point, had also dealt with bullying because his dad's a recovering drug addict, which is not his fault. Outside of school, he dealt with bullying by some of the children also. And I'm not saying he was perfect. He definitely had his own flaws and he definitely had his hands in things. But what he went through, he shouldn't have. He didn't give any warnings or signs of this coming. November 5th, we went to my parents. We had dinner with them. Came home. He was fine all day. He had just looked forward to being able to meet up with his best friend, who he's been friends with since he was 3. And they got together. He went and had a sleepover with them. The morning of November 6th, his friend said he seemed a little off, but nothing concerning, I guess. Conversation of suicide had come up. I don't know who brought it up. I don't know. And one of his friends had kept telling him, when my son would upset him, just go hang yourself or go kill yourself. They went to a local playground right here near my home, where my son played a lot during the weekends. And he had told his friends he was going to come home. So his friends left. And he never came home. Upon his 6 friends that he was with returning, they found him hanging by his own sweatshirt on the gym, on one of the playground equipment pieces. 3 of them got him down and 1 started CPR. His best friend came and got me. I got up to him, started CPR too, till medical and police and fire arrived. They did get him revived, got him to the hospital, and from November 6th to November 12th, we were in Dartmouth with him. He never recovered. His brain injury was too much. He died from they called it a global devastating anoxic brain injury because he was without oxygen for too long. So he was, for 6 days, he was on the ventilators, and but he slowly was going. And then at 6:05 on November 12th, he had passed. And he was an organ donor. That was his choice. We honored his choice, so we did sign the paperwork for his organs to be donated. And since then, it's just been an up and down. I am fighting for change because our school systems do not. They don't take bullying seriously. A lot of parents in my community have all said the same thing, like their children are getting bullied. They have a conversation with the school says they'll have a conversation with the bully or with the child that's doing the bullying, and that's where it goes. There's no consequences. So I'm fighting for that change, for the bill, for the schools to do more about bullying, for the schools to get more mental health awareness programs into the schools and suicide prevention, because this is such an issue that needs to be addressed.
Desiree, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. It really means a lot to know that you are willing to help us help your efforts. Does anyone have any questions?
Well, I have a few questions. Full disclosure, I've spoken with Desiree before. We took some testimony yesterday at the committee, and there's a question around sort of wraparound services for families, friends, those sort of post-vention services for families. And I'm wondering, first of all, how are you doing and how is your family doing? And, have you been receiving any any services from, like your local designated agency, support follow-ups with your other children for yourself? Has there been any?
We're taking it day by day. I mean, certainly there are days that are better than others. But the only thing that we were able to connect with is my children and I, we've all been in therapy for a few years now. So they receive their services through mental health, and I received mine through a private therapist, but they're not trained for grief. They're not trained to directly cope with this or help families cope with this. When I was in the hospital before my son passed, even though we knew he was not going to come through, I had reached out to my therapist and my kids' caseworker, asking them to see what they could find for whether it be family grief counseling or even a grief counselor in general for me and for my family. And there is none. I was directed to go online, that there's some online, but there's nothing here locally in St. J that helps cope with this. Now, the bigger picture of it is it didn't just impact us, but there are 6 other kids that they saw my son and they were friends with my son. And they didn't all go to the same school, but the schools pulled in a crisis team as best as they could, but it still weren't enough. And now what I'm seeing is one of the schools, and my 14-year-old son still goes there, but Noah had prior, is they didn't have anything, and now they're pulling in someone to come in and do a presentation on suicide and bullying, and and they just got a grant for mental health things, but that wasn't happening. That hadn't happened until my tragedy with my son happened. And I often ask, since this has happened, I've asked several times, how many more children in the school systems have to or feel like they have to make this decision to take their life because nothing is being done about the bullying situation? One is one too many. My son is 12. He shouldn't be gone because of what was taking place. I've spoke with the schools numerous times when my son was giving concerns to me, and it didn't go anywhere. It felt like it was swept under the rug and just more or less ignored. And you can't ignore this problem. It doesn't go away. It gets worse as they get older. It gets, as the older children get, the worse the discipline. I mean, the worse the bullying seems to get. So how many more children are we going to lose? This is it. My son's tragedy has impacted our community really, really strongly, and it's really heartbreaking. But we don't have any grief services here. We don't have a grief therapist. We just get directed to go find them online. And for me, that's not something that works for me nor my children. We're not learners like that.
So you say you're trying to do more in the schools. Can you share a little bit about what you're advocating for in the schools?
I am advocating in the schools that there be harsher consequences for bullying rather than just a conversation, because conversations are proving over and over and over it does nothing, because the children are repeating the same thing. I'm advocating that we get our mental health programs in there, because I know, like, even in first grade, they have language that first graders can understand. I'm advocating that we get a suicide prevention program in schools, because this is such a huge, huge thing for our youth that it needs to be in there. And on top of it, the older grades, I'm advocating get your CPR training, because if it weren't for the three children that acted as quick as they did, when they found my son. I wouldn't have even gotten 6 more days. My son's place of death would have been that playground. And the kids are 13 and 14. And to know what they did was amazing. So I'm advocating that it gets taught in school to our older children for CPR, because you never know what you're going to come into. You never know what you're going to find. And CPR is such a huge thing that to know it and be able to do it could mean a life or death. Unfortunately, it gave us 6 days longer with Noah, but he never woke back up and he didn't recover.
They seem like pretty amazing kids that your son had for friends.
They are.
And I will also say that the American Heart Association is in our building today, and I can guarantee you that probably most of us will now go down and learn how to do CPR from them today. Are you okay to continue, or do you want to take some time?
No, I'm okay.
All right, you had a question?
Yeah, and yes, I do. And you kind of asked, Desiree, did you ever go in the school with your son and, spend a day with him to see what kind, I wonder what kind of bullying happened, and I'm amazed that you get a response from the school better than you got. And what would you advocate for a penalty for a child that bullies another child? And I want to make sure I understand the age of your son. I was having trouble just totally hearing. How old was your son?
12.
12. Okay. All right. So that's a tough age with bullying for sure.
Yeah.
And so maybe help me out understanding just what you're advocating for in the schools.
So as far as the consequences go, the talking just doesn't work. And I would like to see, some out of school suspension, take them completely out of the situation. If, that doesn't work, I know that the schools can legally do more and refer it into, the court systems. I don't ever want to see children in trouble, but at the same hand, I would rather see another child be held responsible for their actions than to see another family struggle with a loss like we are. A lot of, I understand that a lot of factors play into why children bully. I would 100% get that. And you also have the parents. There's a lot of parents that, ask, well, what did your child do to mine? And they don't want to do anything to fix the situation. So when the school steps in and the school has a conversation, a lot of times it doesn't go anywhere or any further either. I can say for myself as a parent, if my children do what they're not supposed to, the school lets me aware, and then I have my own consequences at home, and have a in-depth conversation with my children further. If we can't get the children, then it moves on to the parents, so the parents get held responsible as well as the children for the children's actions, because this can't continue. And if talking fixed the issue, we wouldn't have as much of an issue with the bullying that we still have going on. So talking is proving it's not doing much. And I don't even know if an out-of-school suspension would do anything, but it's a start. It's better than a conversation or nothing happening at all.
Was it physical bullying, mental bullying, name calling? What? Just so I have an understanding.
So Noah had expressed in the schools as well had expressed that Noah had been in some physical altercations with some children, due to other children instigating the situation. He was bullied by verbal words, and it was a combination factor of them all. Noah did find himself troubled when he would come back at the child that was bullying them. He has been suspended for actions, and he would get even more upset because he felt like he was the only one being consequenced for the situation. And of course, we don't know like what the other children are getting held responsible for, but it was a combination of everything. And it's rough. I've been in his school several different times. As far as being with him for the day, they did not allow that, because because I was his mom, so they didn't allow that. And they had a one-on-one that was supposed to be with him at all times. So it was really, it wasn't, not always did the one-on-one do their job. And he, like I said, he was hurt by 2 different staff at the school as well, because he was struggling. And the 2 staff even, their actions were deemed justifiable. And my child had injuries from both incidents. And they were deemed justifiable.
Thank you, Desiree. So I did want to just share that yesterday our education committee here took quite a bit of testimony about mental health in our schools. And I actually spoke with the chair last night, and he said that many of the schools all of the people from the schools who testified stressed that we need to increase our mental health supports in our schools. So the word is getting out that it's beyond time to make sure that our children have the supports they need, and our teachers, can be advocates for them. So know that is starting, and your voice will just carry that even further. And Alyssa has a question.
I know this is a bit of a pivot, but I was reminded of a conversation that we had. And while it's not germane to actually our committee here, I do know that there is a bill that's in another committee right now. And I wondered if you might talk a little bit about sort of the community reaction and media in announcing your son's death. And I wondered if you might share that with us, because I think it's really important as we think about these types of issues.
So Noah, like I said, he had hung himself on November 6th at a playground right near my house. Like I could walk out my door and I see the playground. Thankfully, I do not see the equipment he was on. But on November 8th, Caledonia Record had posted a picture that was taken by a drone, which had my vehicle, all the emergency vehicles that they could, and my son with all of ventilator and stuff on the stretcher coming off from the playground. They posted that in the paper with a story, and they gave all of the information minus my child's name. Like they said, that he attempted suicide. They gave his age. They said how he did it. That was 2 days after the incident. And there was no regard to the fact that there were 6 kids that just saw this incident, this tragedy. And then you had, my family, while we're sitting in Dartmouth with my son, I'm getting sent the screenshots of what the Caledonia Record had posted. And I had made contact with them after I came home about it. And I was informed, that's when I was informed that they could do that because it was a public place. It was mind-blowing. And to say the least, that they were willing to post my child's such tragedy within 2 days of it happening. He was still alive at that point. 6 kids were already traumatized. Now, how many more children saw that article? How many more children got all those details? But the only response I had gotten at that point was they could do it because it was public knowledge, because it happened at a public place. And I said, it was done because it was going to sell and you were going to make money off from my son's tragedy. That was 2 days afterwards, and it was mind blown. 3 days after he had passed, I did an interview with WCAX around it and what my hopes and goals were as far as the NOAA Act, which is what it is at this point. And I have the page on Facebook, and I've got, the last time I checked, 1.6K followers in there. I did another interview with WCAX around our resources as far as postvention goes. I forget the place they were talking about. I want to say it's like over in Williston area though, but I don't remember. I did do another interview myself with the Caledonian Record, because where they were quick to post our tragedy, I wanted them to also be able to post what I'm doing and what I'm trying to accomplish with my son's tragedy, which they did do. Noah's old wrestling coach put together a benefit wrestling show for my family in honor of my son, to bring awareness to his story, to bring awareness to suicide, and to bring awareness to bullying. That brought in over 200 people, and they raised over $3,500 for my family.
Desiree, you're amazing. You inspire me.
Thank you, Desiree.
Thank you for sharing that story. I know I can't imagine how painful that must have been for you, just in the aftermath of this, to then have to deal with that. So I really thank you for sharing that.
Desiree, is there any final things you want to leave us with?
I'm just hoping there's going to be a change.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to see any more, like I said, how many more children have to feel that they need to take this route in order for change to happen. This school was doing nothing, and now because there was a tragedy, I'm watching St. J's School put together stuff. It shouldn't have ever had to have had a tragedy to make a change.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to leave one final thought, because you mentioned it really briefly, but I think you are so brave. And, the act of donating his organs, it is such an act of love and also of bravery. And I really commend you for that.
It's because I had the conversation. I have big conversations with my children, and they are aware that me and my partner are organ donors, and they all were made aware that until they're 18, they are organ donors. And because Noah was such a loving, selfless, and helpful, caring child, he himself said that if anything happened to him, that's what he wanted. And so we honored his wish, and it's hard. And I had an amazing support team down in Dartmouth. I still I encourage people, if you're not registered as an organ donor, it's something worth looking into, because my thought process is that when I'm dead and gone, if I've got organs that can be utilized for someone, use them, because I don't want them to go to waste in the ground. So we did donate organs. They couldn't take everything like they'd hoped, but they did take quite a bit. And my case manager that handled it contacts me every week. My case manager from Dartmouth still contacts me every week, checking in with us. And I just signed the papers with my organ donation case manager to be a volunteer speaker when they come to Vermont in, I believe it is April, to give my son's testimony there as a organ donor. I forget the proper name. I'm not a recipient, but I'm a survivor to someone who did donate organs. So his story is still getting out there. I'm still working on getting a suicide prevention walk going. I've given his testimony in a couple different stand-up committees through the mental health system. I'm just kind of navigating my way through it, and I'm hoping for change. Like, that's all I want. I don't want my child's death to be in the end for nothing. And this is what's helping me cope. This is what I felt was best that needed to happen. And I started working on the NOAA Act before we even left that hospital. And it's just been something that's been helping me, navigate it and try to, navigate with my other 2 children that are home. The other 3 are adults, but, it's very, very hard. And this is nothing I want ever for anybody else to have to endure, because it's devastating. I'm one final test from being an EMT, and I did not go to EMT school to have to do CPR on my son. It was hard, but I did it out of heart and love for my son, even though I knew he weren't going to make it.
And Desiree, you are carrying your son forward in everything that you do. We hear you loud and clear. We will do what we can to make an impact as well. Please reach out anytime. And I thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Desiree.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So